While promoting the participation of women entrepreneurs in the South African economy is a key focus area for various economic stakeholders and policymakers. It was also the theme for the Competition Commission study, highlighting the significant barriers faced by women entrepreneurs in the country. And for a little bit more detail, I am now joined by Betty Mkhatshwa, who's the principal analyst or senior analyst at the Competition Commission, as well as Marie Sebueng, who is the founder and CEO for IAMS Powerhouse. Thank you both so much for joining us. Betty, I think let's start with you, just covering that theme, looking at those bottlenecks that your report finds that women still face. What are those bottlenecks?
Thanks for the opportunity to be able to share more on this study. So in this project, what we wanted to do was to explore what barriers women face in their entrepreneurial ventures. And there are about 5 that we identified, but I'm going to focus on 2. And these are the 2 key ones that actually prevent women from being able to participate in the high value generating segments of the economy. So the first one is that women are not able to access finance, which they need to expand their businesses. In fact, the data from the study shows that a lot of women rely on informal funding. You know, they borrow money from friends, from family, and loan sharks in order to be able to start or expand their businesses. So the information around, funding programs is not easily accessible to women, especially those in rural areas and semi-urban areas. And when it comes to the banking sector as well, the concerns that women identified is that they need collateral in order to be able to get funding. A lot of women in South Africa don't own property or other movable property that is of significant value in order to be able to get funding. So those are the concerns around finance. And in relation to accessing profitable markets, the study in fact shows that a lot of women sell their goods and services to the general public. So very few of them offer their services and products to other businesses, which are the markets that are more lucrative for anyone who runs a business, and also government. Government is not easily accessible for them as well. They identified that, there are a number of cumbersome requirements that they have to comply with in order to be able to qualify for, tenders. So those are the significant concerns that really push women to operate businesses that are smaller and in, the sectors that don't generate much value.
So access to finance, access to markets, Mari, it's a conversation that has been long-standing, decade plus, those being the issues and issues for entrepreneurship in general. But now, for zoning in on women, you've worked with women from across the continent, around the world, really. Do you share Betty's sentiments that those 2 issues are really the top issues still facing women entrepreneurs?
Absolutely. And firstly, good afternoon, Dontogos, and thank you so much for having me here. I think that Betty is spot on with the assessment in terms of what entrepreneurs face. I think that the one key thing is the economic disparity, that women not having access to markets is the one. But the second one is the conversation around funding, and women entrepreneurs specifically having access to funding to participate in key sectors of the economy. But I think to add to that, some of the challenges, if I think about female entrepreneurs, is that in the way we've had this conversation about enabling female entrepreneurs has been very linear. So we think it's one thing or the other. And it's far more complex than that. And I think if we look at key sectors of the economy, often we look at just skills development or we're just looking at funding. But we need to look at the more integrated approach when it comes to entrepreneurs. Because I can assure you there's a number of entrepreneurs that feel that actually the answer is not just skills development. And in fact, for many entrepreneurs, they're quite fatigued with just focus on skills. But we need to look at or have the conversation in a more inclusive way, looking at skills, funding, and more importantly, access to markets.
That access to markets, yeah. And I'd like to dig a little bit deeper for both of you, just around that difference of a business for growth and a business for survival, and not focusing on one issue. Where are those opportunities, Betty? If we're seeing the bottlenecks, but where do the opportunities for women entrepreneurs lie to really get into there and make the most of that?
Yeah, so in the study we also evaluated through a survey, what are the sectors that women are in? So women are in a lot of the services sectors, right? So personal care services, catering, and the like. But the problem is that even in those sectors that they are in mostly, they are actually in the value chain that is not generating much revenue to them, right? So there are also other sectors that are generally generate more value, like mining, construction, and engineering. Women are breaking, barriers and entering those sectors. But the problem is that they are not able to meaningfully participate. So what we advocate for in the study is to say, look, women are present in all markets, but how do we then advance them in a way that they can compete effectively in those markets, run sustainable businesses? And I think it's obviously important to point out that women are no longer starting businesses just to put food on the table, but they are actually seeking opportunities to compete in those markets. So some of the principles that we advocate for in the paper, right, try to push for this, where we are no longer just having the discussions about developing the skills of women, but saying how can the government and non-government stakeholders come to play and support women. So one of the principles that we have there is around procurement, right, that businesses and government need to procure more from women-owned businesses, right, increase procurement. And this is also seen in some of the major conditions that are coming from the Commission, right, where we are having conditions that say, look, if there are increased procurement opportunities, they should also benefit women, right? But also what is important is when the women-owned businesses have an opportunity to work with government and the private sector, we need to look at the contracts that we have with them, right? What are the contractual terms? Are the contractual terms perhaps unfair and limit women from being able to be more profitable? What are the payment terms that are in place? So those are very important considerations. And, taking it back again to finance, we need to think about the funding criteria that we have, and we need to look at a profile of a woman and what they have and how much access they can have in terms of finance. So reconsider those, apply sort of gendered criteria that take into account the realities of women in South Africa.
And Mari, bringing you in, you take a more global and continental look to some of the women that you work with the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, as we're starting to see that implementation. Talk us through then opportunities there for women in South Africa to really partner with other women on the rest of the continent to make that impact with their businesses.
Yeah, if I look at the Africa Trade Agreement, I think it's a great opportunity because for a long time we've been speaking about women collaborating, and this enables that for women to collaborate across various sectors. And I've been looking at the research, and if you look at some of the work that's done by Valerie Naren, she's a well-known African woman that showcases the successes of women across various industries. And how we evolved in the conversation was speaking about sustainability for Africa. And I think it's for women being actively participating in conversation around energy, sustainability, and ECG. And if we look at some of the progress that women have made specifically in the past year, we're looking at technology, mining, and sustainability. There certainly has been a shift, but there is great opportunity for more women to participate. And to Betty's point, I think we've got great entrepreneurs in the services sector, but we're looking to create an opportunity where we can do business for Africa, by Africa. And the free trade agreements allow for that, for women to really have access to greater markets across those regions and those sectors.
And ladies, we are running out of time. I think we've got about 2 minutes. Just one question that I really wanted to get out of, and I think just a statement or a line on the importance of really, as you said, collaboration, women working together, getting rid of that stigma that we want to pull each other down, that we don't really like each other. Just a word of advice and a word or a statement rather on what we need to do really as women to also empower ourselves and each other.
Yeah, I think for me, really, it is what it is. It's a stigma, right? It's a psychological conditioning, and that means we can unlearn it. So as soon as we as women unlearn it and understand that's not who we are, then we'll be able to do more together.
Absolutely. Mari, parting words?
Parting words, I think, for the most successful entrepreneurs, if you look at the history, is that entrepreneurs shouldn't just focus on competing, but on collaborating. And I think the stigma is for women can only be changed by women. So we need to showcase more the successes of women collaborating as opposed to focus on competing. And if we think about the nature of women, we are that way. We are inclusive in our nature. So I think we need to tap into that that inherent ability of women to collaborate.
Tap into that inclusivity and that collaboration. Thank you so much for your time. And of course, we probably will have a discussion again sometime in future. And of course, that was Betty Mkhatshwa, who is the senior analyst at the Competition Commission, as well as Mari Sebueng, the founder and CEO of IAMS Powerhouse, and just talking us through the role that women plays in driving entrepreneurship in the country, and of course entrepreneurship and small to medium-sized businesses being huge creators of jobs as well as economic growth.